Hi, I'm Vanessa from SpeakEnglishWithVanessa.com. Today I have a special guest for you. He's Kevin from the Feel Good English website. Today we're going to be talking about prepositions. Would you like to improve your prepositions? Let's see what he has to say about it. Hi, Kevin. Thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Vanessa. How are you?
Oh, I'm doing great. I'm glad to introduce you to my audience and share some of your awesome English knowledge with English learners around the world.
Well, thanks for having me. I have to say it's very nice looking at somebody who has such a big smile on her face. It makes it very easy.
Well, got to learn English with joy, with happiness.
Yes, that is true. Very true.
Yes, yes. So some of my audience might already listen to your podcast, be familiar with your material, but if they are new to you, can you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, so my name's Kevin. I am from Colorado. I live in Denver right now. And I spent the last 8 years in Brazil. Some of you maybe know me from my last site. It's called Inglês Ninja. It was kind of teaching English to Brazilians. Stopped that about a year ago, and then a couple months ago, I started my new website and podcast called the Feel Good English Podcast. And what I do, I've been somebody who always tries to learn lessons to improve myself, to become better, to simplify, to become better at life through reading books on other people that have had a longer journey than me and who have found success through various means, and they put all of their lessons and their insights into books. And so I read the books and try to apply some of those lessons and integrate them into my life. What I've been doing now with Feel Good English is taking these lessons that are not only good for my life, but also can help English learners around the world and kind of simplify them, put them into shorter English lessons, and put them on my podcast. So ways to improve your English, to listen and to learn new English, but also learn lessons that can help you become better and become a better version of yourself in life, in your career, and in English.
Yeah, that sounds like a beautiful way to learn English. It's not just grammar and vocabulary, but improving your personal life through English.
Sure, we have
Great.
the famous expression in English, killing two birds with one stone. So means you can do two things. You can accomplish two things with one action. So you can improve your English and learn valuable life lessons at the same time.
Yeah, and you've got some interesting interviewees also on your podcast. So English learners can get a chance to hear your voice, hear about the books that you read, but also hear about what other English speakers, English teachers might be interested in as well. That's great to hear two people.
Sure, yeah. There's a lot of interesting people out there, and it's cool to see what people are interested in and what they've connected with, and just kind of make these people seem more real. And connecting with these people through my podcast has been a real joy for sure.
Yeah, and I'm sure English learners, if they haven't checked out your podcast, will love it. I'll make sure I put all the links in the description below this video. But thanks so much for making such a cool resource for people to learn English through self-improvement.
Oh, sure. Yeah, I hope they find the value that it provides if they're into improving themselves.
Yeah, oh, definitely, definitely. And today I wanted to ask you some questions about a specific topic that English learners ask me about a lot. It seems to be a challenging thing because they're small words, prepositions.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah. The evil prepositions. Yeah.
Yeah, they seem to always get you. Should I say in the office, at the office, on the office?
Right. Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sure. So you have written, we'll talk about this later as well. You've written a course that's going to help English learners with several different challenging topics in English. So we'll talk about that at the end of our conversation, but part of that course is prepositions. So do you have any tips or ideas about how can English learners master prepositions? What do you think?
So yeah, in prepositions are probably, if not the most challenging aspect of learning English, definitely one of the top two or three. Over the years of teaching, and I spent 8 years as a private teacher, and taught more than 7,000 hours of private classes. After that time, you definitely see which problems students have and the most common problems and mistakes that they make. Prepositions definitely being one of them. My approach to learning a language, and over the years, I've tried different methods and different ways of improving, and just watching my students and kind of getting an overall average of how the typical student learns. My approach is making it as easy and natural as possible so students can continue to enjoy learning and so they don't get too frustrated and stop. And also realizing that most English learners don't love learning English. A lot of times it's something they need, because these days everybody needs to connect to the world. You need to learn English, and something that I can bring to them, being an American, is help them learn English. So making it more enjoyable, less stressful, and teaching them ways that they can improve things like prepositions without having to sit down at a desk and study for hours, which, especially prepositions, if you're doing that with prepositions, you're going to shoot yourself after a couple days, because it's very frustrating.
Sure.
So I would say there's basically two ways you can attack or you can improve prepositions. And the first one would be doing it naturally. What I mean by naturally is a lot of input. Input is when you're reading and listening to English. And there's obviously millions of different things you can listen to. There's different ideas of what you should listen to, how you should listen to. Online, there's so many options of lessons. But the basic idea is listening and reading as much as possible. And you can go deeper with this and finding content that's interesting to you and that inspires you and that helps you in your life, in your career. So finding content that can help you with that. What you're doing a lot is much reading and listening as possible. It's the easiest way, because you're not focusing on any one thing. You're not really focusing on prepositions. But over time, what happens is you begin to recognize how English sounds. So you don't need to think about which preposition goes where, but you will know that if you use this preposition, I'm at the store, it sounds right. I'm in the store, okay, I'm inside the store. I'm at the store, okay, I'm here. And so you use these different prepositions, you say, that doesn't sound right. Why do you notice this? Because through listening to native speakers, you have learned to recognize the sounds of English.
Sure.
And this takes time. So on one hand, it's the easiest, because you're just listening and reading. On the other hand, it does take more time, because you need to get to the point where you can recognize this, and it's not something quick. One big factor here is repetition. If you go to an English-speaking country and you're there, first of all, talking about English, if you go to an English-speaking country, you have to want to learn English. You can't just go there and then, go to the beach and, hang out and then just automatically learn. So going to an English-speaking country, wanting to learn English is the first step. But then what happens when you're in an English-speaking country is you hear the same things over and over and over naturally, without even trying. In the streets, from your friends, from who you're around, you're just going to hear the same things over and over. That's why people become fluent or become good English speakers when they have time in another country. Because
yes, when you spend that extra time, you can take in a lot of material.
Sure, yeah, you're taking it in just by being there. You have to notice it, but you do take it in by being there. So you don't have to go to an English-speaking country to become an excellent speaker, but what you do need to do is get that repetition. So wherever you are in the world, if you find cool audio lessons or cool podcasts or whatever that may be, listening to it and repeating it over and over and over. Let's say you find a podcast episode and you listen to it 5 times over the week, or 10 times, or however. The more you listen, the better. letting your brain naturally hear these same things over and over and over will make it connect with the sounds and know which preposition to use without having to think about why it's correct.
Sure, that's a natural approach.
Yeah. Whenever you have to ask why this preposition, it frustrates a lot of students. Now, the students that love English, they always ask why. Why this? Why this word? Why not here? Why this? And then the teacher has to explain for 10 minutes why this or why not this. And that's great. But a lot of students aren't like that. And when you start asking why, it just gets confusing. I never learned, well, both languages. I speak Portuguese fluently. I rarely asked why. I had to sometimes. But obviously with English, as growing up as a baby, I never in my whole entire life asked why this preposition. Not once. Vanessa, did you ever ask growing up why this preposition?
Definitely not.
Right. And of course, we're native English speakers. But on the other hand, as children, we don't take English classes. It's just so much repetition, and you're hearing the same things over and over and over, that I'm sure when you're a baby, you make mistakes. Not a baby, but when you're, 2, 3, 4 years old, you make mistakes with prepositions. But, by the time you're, 5, 6, 7, we're speaking naturally. And we've just heard the same things over and over and over. So summarizing that first method naturally, you can do it easily. It takes more time, but you do have to find content, repeat it as much as you can, and use these lessons as almost your English immersion. So you're hearing the same things over and over and over. And then over time, you will speak without thinking about it and say, oh, wow, that sounds good.
Yeah, I've loved it whenever my students have said something and it was beautiful English. And I told them, hey, you just made this sentence that was complex. You used the right prepositions. You said this exactly like a native speaker.
Sure.
And I know you didn't think about it. You just said it naturally. That's such a wonderful moment.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
if English learners follow the method you're talking about, listening, immersing yourself as much as possible with English, it's just going to come out, and it might take more time. As kids, it takes us several years to be able to speak and speak fluently, but it's going to be interesting if you're using that interesting material. And hopefully you can find something that's great, your podcast, YouTube, and really immerse yourself no matter where you live.
Right, yeah. And it feels great when you get to the point of being able to speak without thinking too much about it. And one thing that happens, and schools do this to students, and the traditional ways of learning is they want to make you think so much about the correct forms, and you spend more time thinking about how to say something than actually practicing and using the language. And so that's not what I want to happen. That's an approach for people that love English or that love going to school that's there, but there's other ways to learn. And I've proven that through myself. So many students that I've had that have proven that you can become a great English speaker by learning naturally and living your life through English. And so that's the first approach. The second approach, the other way you can attack prepositions, let's say you are going to take a IELTS test or the TOEFL test or something like that. And hopefully you have to have at least a couple months to prepare for this. Usually you need more time than this because these are tough because they'll test you on prepositions. The biggest thing about prepositions, and I guess the easiest way that you can look at this is prepositions are attached to words. So these are prepositional combinations, so prepositional phrases. Certain words, certain verbs, a lot of times come with certain prepositions. So you'll find lists, you'll find books, and you'll realize that you have to learn these combinations. And in the beginning, it's hard, and this is the harder approach. However, it's kind of the only way to learn them quickly. And if you had a list of prepositions and then figured out what words go with those prepositions or where to use those or asking why at, why on, that doesn't work because there's so many exceptions to the rules and so many times prepositions just don't make sense. Like there's literally no sense. But learning combinations of these words with this preposition, and like I said, a lot of times these are verbs. And come from, go to, things like this, like learning these prepositional phrases, apply to a job or apply for a job, things like this. learning these combinations together is a way that you can really study them deeply. And how are you going to do that? Find resources, study these lists, make sentences with them. A way to really speed up this process is to learn prepositional combinations and then produce language with them, speaking with your teacher or writing things with them. There's a great website called lang8.com, lang, Lang-8.com. It's a free website. You go there, you can write sentences, and then other people around the world correct your sentences and tell
That's
you
great.
where you made mistakes. And the only thing that you have to do is correct other people's sentences. So you speak Portuguese, people will be practicing their Portuguese. Go on there and fix their sentences. And you put your sentences up there practicing with your prepositions, and they can make corrections on that. So it's a great way to produce the language and to test out and to practice with prepositions.
Yeah, that's a huge thing, is using it, producing, creating language.
Sure.
Because if you just intake and take in information all day, listen to things, but you hardly ever write or speak, you'll have that passive knowledge. But when it comes time to meet a native speaker or talk to your clients in English, that's going to be really challenging,
Sure.
scary, nervous.
Yeah, you have to get to practice for sure.
Yeah. And there's a lot of ways people can do that. I know there's a lot of resources out there for using English, but the key is you got to do it.
Sure. Yeah, you have to do it. And I think one of the biggest things that I do in my teaching and over time is helping people build confidence, because confidence is what blocks a lot of English learners. What blocks them from becoming good English speakers. The information can be here, and a lot of these times people, they study well. So an example, somebody that's done a lot of English reading and really understands just about anything you'll say, anything they read, but speaking is a problem. The information is here, but there's that block, that confidence block. And if I can help them become more confident through different challenges and realizing, it's really not about perfection, it's about connecting with people and about being able to express yourself and being comfortable with that, then you'll see big changes there.
I think a lot of that comes down to the method that they've used to study English in the past. Like you were saying about prepositions, a lot of people feel really stressed out about the rules and all the exceptions, but that's probably because in school we were told, red X, this is wrong, you can't say this, you have a bad grade, and stress is just related to learning language, when in reality, when you actually talk with someone in English, if you say something wrong or they don't understand you and they have to say, oh, what did you say? You don't get a big X in life.
Right.
It's just connecting with someone else. Right. So that method of learning needs to be changed, like you're talking about. Learn phrases. Don't stress about the rules, the different things that you have to learn specifically. Just think about the whole picture, the phrases.
Right. And how you communication is connecting with somebody and getting your point across. And that's what we want to happen, right?
Yes.
So I guess summarizing this whole prepositional thing, like in my course, how I teach prepositions is through helping students recognize these combinations and knowing that they exist, and then giving them materials and audios that show that inside these audios there are these prepositional phrases, combinations, but you don't have to focus on them. What you just do is you listen to them a lot and you repeat and repeat, and you start paying attention and you start looking for them while you're doing your enjoyable, fun English practice.
Yeah.
So let's say you take a month of, okay, prepositions is something I want to work on. So then for that month, you're not going to get a book with 4,000 prepositions. Who has time for that? And also, if you learn them, and this is an important point, even if you learn them in a book like the lists, when it comes time to speaking, it will be very hard to use them correctly. I think there's a separation between learning something in a book and then speaking with it correctly. Maybe as you've noticed, Vanessa, you can teach something for an hour and they get it, But then when they relax and, okay, let's just have a conversation, they'll make the same mistake. And it's not the same, I don't think. It's a different type. When you're just relaxing and speaking and just trying to connect with somebody, it's very different than when you're trying to get something right on a piece of paper. So,
Sure.
So just paying attention to prepositions for a month and listening and learning how these ones go with these words and these verbs go with these prepositions, and just bringing your awareness, bringing your attention to that can really help. And in the preposition course that I have, that's how I present this prepositional learning for students.
Great. Let's talk about that course, because I think that's going to be a great resource for English learners who are watching this. If you're watching this, share it with your friends who might also want to improve their prepositions and overall fluency. Can you tell us a little bit about your course? It's not just prepositions, but that's a wonderful piece of it. Can you tell us about it?
Yes, sir. So like I said, after many years of teaching and 7,000 plus hours of teaching, which is crazy, but the 4 areas that I found give the most challenges to the majority of English learners are: 1, prepositions; 2, phrasal verbs, pick up, drop off, bring up, these types of things; pronunciation, sounding more natural when you're speaking so people can understand you, and also you can actually understand them better. And the last one is the present perfect tense. I have been, I have seen, I have been reading a lot. So those 4 areas I call the 4 Ps, and this course attacks those 4 problems. And of course, I can't teach you how to use those perfectly in a month, but I can teach you how to learn them and how to spend time on each area so you can improve on each area over time. So for the example, prepositions, you're going to look for this and you're going to do this when you're listening and reading to your fun content. And then phrasal verbs would be the same. These are how phrasal verbs work. These are what you're going to do. This is what you're going to do when you find them. And you're going to start bringing your awareness to them when you're listening to your content and you're reading things. And so attacking the 4 Ps is the name of the course, teaching you how to think about and how to learn, and also how to relieve some of your stress and frustration about these areas to make them not so scary, to make them not such a big deal. So
yeah, I think that's our goal too as English teachers, is to be more of a guide. We're giving the tools to people to learn English in a natural way, because we can't be their brains. You can't cut out my brain and put it in theirs. You have to just give the tools to learn prepositions, phrasal verbs, these things you mentioned. So you're giving them what they need to improve, and that's going to be really valuable.
Yeah, and I kind of base it maybe on my style. I get there's so much content online. I get bored or not even bored, but distracted by something else all the time. So for a day I'm reading this, and then, oh, this is great, I'm going to do this every day. And then the next day, oh, no, wait, but there's this. Oh, but then there's this. And there's all this different content online, videos and websites and books and courses and PDFs. And it's very hard for me to stick with one thing. So if I can teach students, well, you don't have to stick with one thing. You can choose whatever you want. However, think about these certain English aspects while you're doing that, and look for these certain things, and take this information and break it down and put it into this worksheet, which will improve your English. But don't focus too much on that English part. Focus on what you want to use to entertain yourself, or to learn, or to whatever you're doing at that particular moment.
Yeah, I love that spirit of collaboration, like what we're doing now. You're an English teacher, I'm an English teacher. We're showing people exactly what you said, that it's good, it's valuable to use more than one source. If you just learned with one person, like if you just talked with your mom when you were a child and you never talked to anyone else, your language would probably be a little strange. You might sound kind of like a robot, just this one person. So you got to introduce yourself to multiple English speakers and teachers.
Right. Absolutely.
So You're telling people, hey, it's okay if you want to learn from this person and this person and this person, great, but make sure that you're going to use these tools and these techniques to get the most out of what you're learning, which is great. I'm glad that you've compiled that organized resource. Sometimes we just need organization in our learning.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, that's the course. That's how it works.
Excellent. Excellent. And thanks so much for describing just the process of learning prepositions in a natural way, hopefully without stress. And this resource in your course is going to be excellent for learning those in a more organized way.
Yeah, I hope so. Yeah, sure. Kind of a stress relieving resource if somebody needs that, for sure.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I will leave all of the links to your website, your podcast, your course in the description below. I'll put them on the screen. That way everyone can check them out. And thanks so much for doing this interview, this mini lesson for the world. That's great.
You're welcome. And I have to say, Vanessa, you are such a nice girl, such a wonderful smile. I think if I was learning English, I would have to have classes with you because
thank you.
That would be a happy lesson, I'm sure.
I hope so. I try to bring some joy and happiness. My middle name is Joy.
Well, there you go. Perfect.
I think it's so important because a lot of people have had, like we talked about, that stress when learning English. So gotta overcome that and have fun. So thanks so much, Kevin. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Vanessa. It's wonderful talking to you.
Yes. See you again the next time, Kevin.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Thanks so much for watching this interview with Kevin from Feel Good English. To learn more with Kevin, you can click on the links here on the screen or in the description below this video. I'm so glad that you joined me today to hear two native speakers talking together to help you improve. Thanks so much and see you later. Bye! If you enjoyed this video, be sure to download my free ebook where you can learn 5 steps to becoming a confident English speaker. You can share it on Facebook, upgrade to the listening audio version, and don't forget to check your email to get the free ebook. Let's see what it is. Alright, here is the free ebook. You can download yours today. Just click on the link and it will be in your email within a few seconds. Thanks so much for learning with me. Bye!